Welcome everyone, Meolale. I'm Samson Omale in Jos, Nigeria, and this is Africa Matters. Tensions in Nigeria have reached new heights as youth activists protest poor governance, corruption, and failing public services. Prominent youth figures and grassroots leaders say the government's inability to address pressing issues such as poverty and the high cost of fuel has left millions of Nigerians suffering. Timothy Obiuzu has more.
This is the sight and sound of Abuja, Nigeria's capital city, the first day of the 10 days of rage. That is what these demonstrations are called. And Nigerian youth essentially called for these to protest what they say has become the unbearable, levels of hunger in Nigeria. They're also asking or demanding for, accountability with those in power. They say there's such high level of corruption in government offices and bad governance. These are the reasons why protesters are here, and authorities in the days that led up to this day have tried to appeal to the people, or would I say even warn the people not to come out to the streets to protest. But this protest is happening. These protesters are defying orders from the government, and they're out on the streets. And we're already seeing reactions, from the security forces. Just some moments ago, we saw the police, dispersing the protesters with tear gas. And but these protesters are not backing down. We've seen very, serious scenes here. Protesters throwing back the tear gas at the police officers. Now, this is arising because last year, President Bola Tinubu removed the expensive fuel subsidy, and the Nigerian government also sharply devalued the naira. This triggered unbearable hardship for the people and caused the prices of food and commodities to skyrocket. And these guys are essentially saying they're no longer able to afford their basic necessities, and that is why they have come to the streets to demonstrate today.
Things have been expensive in the market. Nigerians are suffering, Nigerians are hungry, Nigerians are angry. As you know, in Nigeria today, a lot of people are unemployed. The issue of insecurity in the north and the southeast continues to increase every day. So we are here to just make our grievances known to the federal government.
I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, because my parents are still alive. I cannot support my parents, neither my children. So what are we doing? We came out to protest for our rights. It's our country. Because ordinary beans of 200 naira that year is now 3,000 naira. For more than 2 months now, I didn't cook beans in my house.
There are similar protests that are taking place in other states in Nigeria, but here, this is Abuja, this is the sound of the city, this is the sight from the city. There's been, the authorities warned earlier that the protests could potentially descend into chaos. And what we are seeing right now is not far from that prediction. But now this is not coming from the government, because the police, these protesters were marching the streets when the police started firing these the tear gas canisters at them.
Nigerians say mass nationwide protests are the only avenue they have to express their frustrations with President Bola Tinubu's administration. Protest organizers say they want all Nigerians to support the movement, regardless of where they are from. But the country is divided on the best way to address their grievances.
Nigerians have listed at least 10 demands they want addressed, including food inflation, insecurity, and corruption. They also want judicial and electoral reforms and the release of all #EndSARS protesters still in detention. President Bola Tinubu has asked Nigerians to give his administration more time to make changes, but in the meantime has instituted one key demand: a minimum wage for civil servants. The Nigerian government has accused protest organizers of capitalizing on the country's economic hardship. During the 2012 #Occupy Parliament protest over removal of subsidies by former President Goodluck Jonathan, the military cracked down on protesters. Nigeria's last mass demonstrations were in 2020. The #EndSARS movement protested police brutality by the defunct specialized police unit known as the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. It led to the disbandment of the special unit.
I'm I'm now being joined by Steve Aluko. He's the director, Civil Liberties Organization, North Central Nigeria. Steve, I'd like to ask you, how has the recent political and economic development in the country contributed to the scale of this protest we are seeing just right behind us?
First is because the government have not met its manifestation promises, its campaign promises, and rather than seeing positive light, we've seen negative light, and that is why it has affected Nigerian economy. It has affected the people, create more hunger, create more insecurity, and at the end of the day, created more loss of trust on the part of the government. And because of that, we are here on inflationary ground, and it has created a negative response from the people, and that is why we are having this process. The program and policy of government has incited the public to come out in popular demand to ask for a change of policy and program.
Now, how will this protest that is happening right now impact the daily lives of Nigerians?
It depends on the response of the government. If the government responds positively, it could save the government a lot of political will. It could increase the government passion by the people. But if it's on the other side, believe you me, it's going to be political loss, economic loss, and instability for the government. So it is in the best interest of the government to do the needful, to stabilize the policy, so that at the end of the day, they can make more capital gain. If they respond positively, fine. But if it's negative, it's going to be a negative end on the part of the government.
Now, how will you assess government's handling of the protest so far? Will you say it's adequate or it's been ineffective?
Absolutely it's inadequate. Absolutely it's not effective. Because the best approach is to prevent it. And if the government have not incited the public, we won't get to this point. What the government have done is speaking to itself, inventing the past policies and program of past government in addressing public issues, in addressing a more popular agitation. And it is not in the best interest of the government. They have ended up speaking to themselves. It is in their own interest to come out of their own cocoon and speak directly to the issue, to the demand of the public, so that people can be more sympathetic to whatever is happening. But for now, the government have not changed its antics. It has spent more money in buying people on the anti-protest, and it has not been effective. You can see from all shade of people, all shade of interest, people have converged on this to speak one language, that enough is enough to bad governance, to hunger and inflationary policies of the government.
All right, so are there measures or concessions government has made you think will assuage, the demands of the protesters going forward?
Thus far, the government have not done anything. The attempt of the government before now is to blackmail people into submission. You can listen. You heard what the Senate president said. They will be eating while the people are protesting. That's not the way to live. You've seen how the presidency have also responded, calling people and making all sorts of negative sequence event out of it. The attempt thus far have not been assuaging at all. Rather, it has been more incisive. It has been more of a negative occurrence on the part of the government, especially under a democratic republic. It's very, very important that the government, for once, listen to the people to make the best gain out of this protest. Otherwise, it will be on the negative side of history for this government and the people in government at all levels.
Now, what do you foresee to be the next steps for the protesters, for both government and even the protesters going from here?
For the government, let's start from the protesters. Thus far, they have been peaceful. Across Jos, people are converging at NASCO Junction, and they've been peaceful. We've not had incident. That is how it will continue. But if the government decide to go to the negative, either bring in the issue of NSAS and the rest of it, how the government sponsor anti-protest and people using state machinery, state resources against the public, is going to take a different dimension. The next phase will be dictated by the response of the government, the response of the security agents.
Now to Kenya, where the economy is facing unprecedented challenges as ongoing protests disrupt daily life and business operations. Despite President Ruto conceding to numerous demands, the demonstrations saw no signs of abating. Anne Macharia takes us through the streets of Nairobi to understand the economic toll and hear from those affected.
Nairobi, a city that never sleeps, now finds itself caught in a cycle of unrest. The protest, echoing the empty streets, are leaving a trail of economic devastation. Shattered glass and charred vehicles litter the streets. Business owners are left to sift through the ruins, counting the cost of this social upheaval. For Edwin Othiambo, a local shoemaker, the protests have been particularly devastating.
During the protests, I even lost money because I came in the morning and started working a little, but by 10 a.m. I've already packed up and left. There is no customer who can come here because they're afraid of the protests.
At the fish market, the lifeblood of many local economies, vendors struggle to stay afloat. Trade is subdued as fear of uncertainties keep customers away. Vendors selling fresh produce find themselves at a loss. Their stalls overshadowed by the threat of unrest. Tourism, once a beacon of Kenya's economy, now flickers weakly. The smiles of visitors are fewer, the numbers dwindling as safety concerns mount. The smallest businesses are struggling the most.
It has had a big impact on how we do business. It has also had a big impact on especially small traders who rely on daily income from what they sell on the streets.
As protest shows no signs of abating, the economic cost continues to mount, highlighting the cost of President Ruto's determination. With businesses shattered and daily activities disrupted, the nation watches closely, hoping for a resolution. Anne Masharia, Africa Matters, Nairobi.
The Dangote oil refinery on the outskirts of Lagos, Nigeria, is set to produce 650,000 barrels a day and has the potential to address the country's energy supply crisis. But a dispute between the country's regulatory body and the richest man in Africa has put such dreams on hold. Dolakbo Adeniro reports.
Mrs. Hassan, a mother of 5, uses generator to run her local grinding business. She's unhappy about the deadlock between the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority and the owner of the Dangote oil refinery, Aliko Dangote.
The cost of petrol is very high and it has affected my business. On Saturday, we went to the petrol station at about 1 p.m. and came back at 6 p.m. We got fuel at 6 p.m. The crowd is much, the stress is too much. If they allow this Dangote's refinery to function properly, petrol will be surplus and it won't be expensive and stressful.
This is the reality of many households in Nigeria, as an increase in fuel prices rapidly affected the cost of everything else. Currently producing diesel, the refinery reduced the price of it and aviation fuel from about $1.11 to less than $1 within a year of its launch. Nigeria is one of the largest producers of crude oil, but due to a lack of functional refineries, all of it is exported for refining and then imported back to the country, making it the largest importer of refined petroleum in Africa.
The development of a refinery like Dangote gives us an opportunity to cut out a lot of inefficiencies that are currently priced into the cost of petrol. Those inefficiencies include transport costs, light train and terminaling costs, and obviously the breaking of bulk as well. All of those costs you immediately save with a refinery that's efficient.
A sticking point is that the regulatory authority claims Dangote is processing gas oil that contains 650 to 1,200 parts per million of sulfur, which is inferior to imported products. Aliko Dangote has refuted the claim. The $20 billion Dangote refinery, Nigeria's main oil refinery and built to be the largest in Africa at full throttle, started production in January but has struggled to secure enough crude to meet its 650,000 barrel per day capacity.
If the refinery fully works as anticipated, its productivity will not only massively cut the country's import bill, but it's also expected to significantly improve the total output of the country's manufacturing and external sectors, most especially the trade and exchange rates.
The refinery would also help position Nigeria's oil and gas market for global business opportunities, hence boosting the economy and addressing a crippling cost of living crisis. Dolakbo Adeniro, Africa Matters, Lagos, Nigeria.
Tanzania has launched a new electrified railway connecting the commercial port of Dar es Salaam with the capital Dodoma. This 440-kilometer railway reduces travel time significantly and is expected to spur economic growth. Omer Bakululu reports.
From the beaches of the Indian Ocean to the heights of Kilimanjaro, Tanzania is East Africa's largest country, with a landmass twice the size of California. But in such a vast area, getting around has always been a challenge. But now, a welcome boost to the country's infrastructure. After years of construction, carried out by Turkish company Yapı Merkezi, a new electrified railway began its journey between Dar es Salaam, the commercial hub of the nation, and capital Dodoma. The 440-kilometer electric railway line is part of a larger initiative to construct a railway network over 2,500 kilometers. That's replacing the outdated narrow-gauge network inherited from the colonial era. The new service will cut travel time between the two cities to approximately 3.5 hours, a significant reduction from the previous coach journey. This ambitious infrastructure project is expected to boost economic growth, improve connectivity, and enhance Tanzania's position as a regional transport hub.
For Tanzanians and the foreigners or anyone who's visiting Tanzania, I think this is the right time to do business within the country, because we see growth in terms of economic activities. We see demand in terms of products. Perishable goods can now be transported within the same day. So this is very interesting.
The Tanzania Railway Corporation plans to boost service frequency as demand grows, and some trains are already fully booked.
One of the obstacles Africa has been always facing is intertrade. It's very low within Africa, within East Africa, but within SADC itself. So the connectivity creates that enabler for the business people to be able to do business much more easier, but at the low cost. Because if you can move very faster, you can have a meeting, where there's a meeting, or doing some deals, and go back where, you don't need to sleep in Dodoma. You can come this morning, and evening you go back to Dar es Salaam.
In the heart of Tanzania's fertile valleys, where coffee, cotton, and tea flourish, agriculture is the backbone of the nation's economy. With 80% of exports coming from these crops, efficient transportation to markets is vital. So, this railway is not only about tracks and trains, it's a lifeline for farmers, traders, and the entire nation. Ömer Bakulolu, Africa Matters.
The Virunga National Park in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo is fast losing its forest cover. And a UN report shows that conflict is the main driver of the destruction in the last 3 years, as Brenda Radido reports.
Virunga National Park has been at the heart of the Democratic Republic of the Congo civil war for decades. Armed actors on both sides have profited from the production or trade in wood and planks in the areas they control, according to a United Nations report. And millions of Congolese who have fled from clashes between M23 insurgents and the military in North Kivu province have resorted to cutting down trees for their charcoal trade.
I'm a displaced person from Kibumba. I fled the war to Kanyaruchinya, where I live in a camp. I'm here because we're starving in the camp. We decided to produce charcoal to feed our children.
Each morning in Kibati town, crowds of locals and displaced people enter the park's territory in search of logs to burn to make charcoal. Others go deeper to cut trees for planks or plant crops in newly opened land.
We are in Kibati, but these planks come from Rugari and Kabaya. They arrive here from there. Anyone with money can go and get them. Some come from our fields and some from the park, but it's displaced people who cut them. We here are porters. When motorcycles bring planks, we unload them and receive 100 to 500 francs per motorcycle, and we find something to feed our families in the camps.
Deforestation is happening in a park that is one of the most diverse territories in Africa. In 2021, the annual tree cover loss in Virunga rose to more than 68 square kilometers. A further 72 square kilometers were lost in 2022 as the insurgency rolled on, according to data from Global Forest Watch. Virunga National Park is also home to many of the world's last mountain gorillas. Until the war ends, many Congolese say they have no choice but to continue their charcoal trade that continues to fuel fires, deforestation and insecurity. Brenda Radido, Africa Matters.
Now let's turn our attention to the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, where South Africa swimmer Tajana Smith made a stunning last-minute dash to claim the gold medal in the women's 100 meters breaststroke. Smith finished with an impressive time of 1 minute 05.28 seconds. Overjoyed, she celebrated her remarkable achievement, adding the 100 meters breaststroke title to her 200 meters Tokyo Olympic crown.
I wouldn't say comfortable, but yeah, I'm just so grateful to be swimming some good times as well. I haven't been close to my time since Tokyo, so this is my best time since Tokyo. So I think obviously it's amazing to swim in good times, but I think most of all I'm really enjoying every race and I'm much happier. So it doesn't matter what the times are. I think just me personally experiencing those races and just being happy is exactly what I want to be in this time.
Daisy Naklile's sailing sports tale is an inspiring one. She's one of the few black athletes who have qualified for Olympic Games twice, in 2020 and in 2024. Nakliile says her dream is to win medals and inspire young African women to take up the sports of sailing, as Rupert Stone reports.
"I'm not ready," said a 9-year-old Daisy Nakila to her father when she was told to face her fears over sailing. Nakila was determined to pursue her academic studies and not be distracted by sport for the privileged few.
Me and my mom was scared about the sail and go to water and about weather, so I say to my dad, I want to stop. And my dad said, no, I have to do sailing because it can change my life. Maybe I can have like I can go to school. And I can change my life because we are not rich. And he said, or you go to sailing or you go out of my house. And say, whoa.
With her father still encouraging her, Nakila decided to keep on sailing and not doubt her ambitions. She credits her success to the number of hours of training she put in and the support from her family and coach.
I qualified for Marseille, but me and my coach, Rob, we don't have like a good condition for preparation because I have some problem in South Africa and my country don't care about to win the Olympic Games, just to qualify. Just have like 3 Mozambicans qualify to the Olympic Games, so they don't put a lot of, I can say they don't put a lot of money for qualify.
Sailing is more than just a sport for her. It's an opportunity for her to make history for Mozambique. In 2020, she became the first Mozambican sailor to qualify for the Olympics. And she was in the Netherlands for last year's World Championships, when she got the nod for Paris 2024.
I can see here I'm only one black woman, and I'm happy for that, because everyone will know this is here, but me, maybe no. So I'm happy for that. Or maybe I will represent no Mozambique, but Africa and all black women, and say we can come to the Olympic Games, just believe in you and work hard.
And if all that hard work pays off with a podium finish, Nakila says the success won't be just for Mozambique, but also for all of Africa. Rupert Stone, Africa Matters.
And finally this week, we explore Bouake City, Ivory Coast's second largest city that was dubbed Rebel City, as it was once held for 10 years by the Northern Rebellion during the First Ivorian Civil War. Let's take a look. That's our show for this week. Share your thoughts and suggestions about the stories you've seen on this episode or ideas on what you would like us to cover on YouTube or on X using the hashtag Africa Matters. Thanks for watching, and it's goodbye, Shegbatuba, from me, Samson Omale in Jos, Nigeria.